Hi guys, this week's episode, my Iron Man t-shirt, this week's episode is advice for new screenwriters. I'm putting this one together. It's going to be, as most videos are, pretty short because I'm seeing a lot of people on forums and things like that sort of asking that question. I'm new to screenwriting. What advice is the best advice you can give a new screenwriter? These are mine. Read great scripts. There's a whole lot of people that say, oh, you learn heaps from reading bad scripts. You don't learn what a bad script is until you know what a great script is. It's as simple as that. If you've only ever eaten mud, mud tastes good to you. You don't know what great food tastes like till you have great food. You can't say you understand what a great meal is when you've never eaten a great meal. So you have to read great scripts. I'd say read the Academy Award winning scripts, or ones that have been nominated for an Academy Award. Those are great scripts. And you won't understand what you're seeing when you first start reading scripts. So you have to keep reading throughout your career. I still read scripts. The only book I have beside my bed is the 3 Christopher Nolan Batman books that have been put into a hardcover. And I flick through them because I really enjoy the way David S. Goyer has written them. Read scripts. Constantly read scripts. As you evolve as a screenwriter, you'll begin to see what they're doing. You'll begin to recognise the mechanisms, the tips, the tricks, the tools, how they're doing things. These are the things you've got to learn. You've got to learn from the greats. Reading garbage scripts are not going to help you. Once you feel your feet are on semi-firm ground, then you can start reading bad scripts, or maybe reading scripts from other writers that you work with or that you know, or your friends, or it's I'll read mine if you read your, whatever that would be. I'll read yours if you read mine. So you're giving them tips. But these tips aren't going to be great, but they'll be better the more you read screenplays. So just keep reading screenplays. Next tip. Watch a wider and more diverse series of films than you normally watch. If you love action and you love horror, great, watch those. But watch some dramas, some romances, some period films, because you'll begin to see mechanisms that they use in those stories that you can then bring into your love of horror or crime or drama or romance. And by bringing them in, you will make yourself a little bit unique in your voice because you have an element in horror that maybe other people don't have. You'll begin to grow. A tradesman doesn't have just one hammer or just one screwdriver. They have a truck full of tools for all these different scenarios and situations, and they've got experience in all of them. So you should experience as many things as you can. Don't limit yourself immediately. It is easier to wind things back than it is to push them out. Write bad scripts. Write dialogue which is too wordy. Write big paragraphs. Write stupid action. Write what people are thinking. You've got to get in the habit of writing. And then when you are reading these scripts and you're looking at your own work and you're beginning to think, well, mine's pretty crappy in comparison, you'll begin to learn to cut it down. But you've got to make the mistakes. For a short time, I sold vacuum cleaners door to door. I just got married, lost my job, needed money. So I started selling vacuum cleaners. And the guy who was like a rah-rah boss, he said, every time someone says no to you, you should thank them in your mind because you're one front door closer to the next yes. So every time someone says no, you're one step closer to a yes. Every time you make a mistake, you're one step closer in your career to not being that writer that makes mistakes. The next thing you should do is don't believe that there is some magical thing, you're going to have to learn by writing. You're going to have to learn by reading scripts. The very best thing you do is write a little 3 or 4 page screenplay with just enough characters to the friends that you have that will help you out and go shoot it on your iPhone. This is being recorded on an iPhone. up and then drop it into iMovie and edit it and cut it together. It might take all weekend to do 2 scenes because you don't know what you're doing. But you'll begin to see, well, I don't need that dialogue. You can do that with a performance. I don't need this. I don't need... Okay, I begin to see how my script is influencing a performance. Making a short film is an amazing thing to do to push your career forward. Well, actually, not so much your career, but to push your skills forward. Keep making these short films. Make them with stuff on your bench, like your guitar picks, and act them out like little animations. Just got to keep translating what you're writing to something else so you can see how it evolves. You can see if the story works. And story is your most important thing. Do not be seduced by the comfort that you get from following a formula. They are not a bad thing when you're first starting out to write something. I'm going to check. Oh, yeah, okay. But all they are is that someone has looked at the world and put it in steps. They didn't invent the story. They're just something that most stories have. So let's think how those were evolved, how they came to be. Somebody read a screenplay. Read lots of screenplays. I've read them all. I've read as many as me or more. They've read all these screenplays and they began to notice a pattern. So they started writing things down that they noticed in these screenplays. Then they put a bit more detail and they started giving them clever names like the dark cave of the soul or whatever they are. I don't know them. Right? But they begin to recognise these patterns. And then suddenly they go, hold on, I've managed to codify a screenplay. Then they tell people this, and people have no idea, that aren't very good screenwriters, start following this and go, hold on, my work looks a little bit better. So why don't we take out that middleman? Why don't you read the scripts and you learn what you need to learn? Because all you learn, if you're reading these books, is you learn how to impersonate the guy who wrote the book. You don't learn what great screenwriting is. You learn what that person thinks is great screenwriting, and that might not be great screenwriting. It is just their opinion on what great screenwriting is. So you can learn great screenwriting, or you can learn someone's opinion on great screenwriting. Your call, up to you. There is no rules. We've got the book coming out, tools, not rules. But there is some things that make bad English. I don't know if I've told you this story before. I wrote a statement, a sentence in a memo about a piece of software we were working on. And in it, I said, we have developed a process that produces, and then I went on to describe what it produces. And my boss was reading it, and he just picked up his pen, and he shortened that entire sentence down to, we produce. Because he said you can't produce something without a process, and you can't have a process till you've developed that process. So he removed all those words down to, we produce, bang, the product. You will get better at English, but the stupid rules like don't use ing words, don't use adverbs, don't use flowery language. All that can go away once you find your style. And when people say, is it okay to? The answer is always yes. As long as you do it good. It is always okay to do whatever you want to do in your screenplay as long as you are great at doing it. As long as people don't read it and go, holy, what were they thinking? That's the worst thing I've ever read. As long as you are fantastic in doing this thing that you're asking, is it okay to do? It is okay to do it. The only things that when people say, is it okay to do something, and people say no, is when it harms someone else. Your screenplay will not do harm. So it is okay to do what you need to do to get your story across. You may be a garbage storyteller. That is a completely different thing to using ing words. Okay? Flowery language. Too much flowery language makes the screenplay hard to read and takes the person out of the connection they put in their mind to start visualizing stories. If they start noticing the words on the page, you've lost them. You've done the wrong thing. The words on your page are invisible. That's what a screenplay format does. I'm not a screenplay format zealot. You can do whatever you want, but it becomes invisible to people that read a lot of screenplays. Basic English becomes invisible to the person reading it. So they begin to visualize your story. When you sell real estate, the real estate agent will ask questions like, is this big enough for your lounge? Or would your sofa fit under that window? Because what he's trying to do is get the buyer to visualize their furniture in that space. He's trying to get them in their mind to move into the house. Because if they've already moved into their house in their mind, it just becomes a money issue. That's the easy part of real estate. So you have to do the same thing. Get out of the way of the reader so they can start visualizing your movie. And there is no rule you can follow that will make them visualize your movie. So let's do a quick recap. Advice for new writers. Read screenplays from great writers. Keep reading screenplays from great writers. That should be a habit you have for the rest of your life. Give some advice, but only when you know what you're doing. If you're going to read bad screenplays, make sure you know what you're doing so you don't get influenced by garbage. Only be influenced by great writers telling great stories. Step outside your genre. Don't just watch horror. Just don't watch romance. Don't get railroaded. Have a broader vocabulary, visually and literally. Expand your thinking. These things will influence and come into the genre you want to write in, and they will make you a unique writer. So read. Broaden your horizons. Don't be scared of things. Be willing to make mistakes so you will learn from the mistakes. Don't get stuck inside a little formula. Don't get stuck on the path that leads you through the forest, because you'll never see anything interesting. Go into uncharted worlds. Go off, do things, make mistakes. Every mistake gets you closer to being the writer you want to be. I've been free-forming a lot of this. I don't have notes written in front of me or anything that I can do. I hope I've covered off and recap everything. If you found some value in this, please click subscribe. Give me a like. Comments are great. I love getting comments going back and forth to people. That's a really, really nice thing. The book, Tools Not Rules, is getting very, very close. I've got to that point in all writing where the last 5% is going to take me as much as the rest of the book. Going through, finishing off the last bits, making sure that the sections make sense, that you can go to a section. You'd have to go between sections to learn things. That's really, it's kicking my butt. But that is going to be done very, very soon. Go over to griffithscreative.com.au. Leave comments, drop me a line there if you want to get part of the release for the book. I use the same name everywhere, so if you want to find me anywhere on the internet, I'm always Craig D. Griffiths. But until next time, guys, keep writing.